In your experience at the Met, are these riots characteristic of the far right? Were you able to sort of look at these images and say straight away, yeah, that looks like it is a far right protest or riot?
Well, good morning, Paul. When you look at that, it's hard to tell because there's so many different elements involved in that. And one thing is for sure, and you've said it in your lead up here, that what this is a vocal minority who have hijacked what's going on. And there's some real concerns, societal concerns that people have, which you can't dismiss. But it's all been now twisted and hijacked to suit their agenda. Look, Paul, it's going to be a very long summer because there is also a correlation between summer, violence, long days. So this has just taken over. If you look at some of the crowds, you have a minority, you have a big minority of people that are far right. They haven't hidden their agenda. They've come out, man walking around with swastikas. The slogan, enough is enough. We want our country back, law and order. But the very things they're doing is attacking the fabric of our own society by burning police stations, looting. So that tells you where their agenda is. It's just gone out of hand and now they're being mobilised. They're very quick to mobilise. The right wing has always been quick to mobilise and go. So these people seem to know what they don't want. They don't seem to tell us what they want and how they're going to lead. It's just free for all, which is really sad for our society. But we've also seen the best of our communities coming out. But, there are some real society issues that people are concerned about, which have to be addressed by Keir Starmer. The Labour government have only been in for 3 weeks.
It's just very muddled, though, isn't it, Nusrit? Because one of the frustrations as a journalist covering this is there were a lot of legal restrictions around what we could say because the suspect is under 18. He has now been named and the judge in extraordinary circumstances has lifted those. That helps us as journalists to explain what's going on. But it was quite frustrating in the days running up to his appearance at court that, I was seeing on social media people saying that he'd arrived on a small boat last year. I knew that wasn't true because I knew who he was by that point. Then we sort of had this tenuous link with Islam. I knew that was very, very unlikely because his parents are from Rwanda. It's a predominantly Christian country. It just didn't add up. Now we've got sort of talk in the newspapers today about, is there an integration problem in Britain? Like, there is definitely, I respect a debate to be had about integration and people feel passionately about that. But that doesn't really apply here either because his family, from everything I found out, were very well integrated in the local community. The neighbours know them and they're involved in local clubs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the frustration is that there's just a lot of disinformation out there that is helping the far right to draw links that aren't actually relevant in this particular circumstance.
Absolutely. And this, we've said again, this has got nothing to do with attacking mosques. This has got nothing, what happened in what we're seeing now. It's nothing to do with that. It's gone beyond that because the truth is out there. Those people that want to spread hatred, they want to spread fear, are hanging on to this. Social media has a lot to do with it. The right wing mobilise on Telegram. They use other forms of social media. That needs to be tackled. So let's get to the root of how we're going to tackle this right now. We've seen the mindless thuggery. We've seen the mindless violence, hatred, Islamophobia. But I would like to have seen the Prime Minister come out with a stronger message this is nothing more than that, to say no to racism, no to Islamophobia. They're going to be, regardless of everything, they're going to peddle their agenda. It's not just, it coming out and there's misinformation on social media. You've got people who are elected MPs that are still spreading that misinformation. Right up until a few days ago, Mr. Farage was saying, there's still a lot that they're not telling us. So, it's putting that all out there. People that don't even at this moment live in Britain are also fueling this. So it's not just this misinformation that's been put out there and people don't understand. They've got the facts. This is no more than thuggery, hatred, and just out there. If they're cared about societal societal issues, which there are many, which, violence against women and girls, knife crime, this isn't about any of that. This issue about multiculturalism, integration, they're just red herrings to get people who are perhaps not well informed to just jump on this bandwagon and attack police officers, loot police stations, Nazi salutes at the Cenotaph. Those are the real people that have to be addressed. Policing needs to be robust. It has. Prime Minister's put out a policy of what he's going to create, this national capability, which is all about sharing intelligence, which is all about, using a coordinated and consistent approach to stop the people who are at the root. But as I said to you at the beginning, this is a long summer. The majority of the people that have been involved in this violence that I've seen, certainly in Hartlepool, they were teenagers and children. Who radicalised them? Where are we with that? Now, even if you look at Southport, they were just children as well, teenagers.
Well, some people were taking their children to the riot. Some people were taking. I saw. She must have been about 8 or 9, little girl in floods of tears because there were loud bangs at the riot. There was fire. There were bricks being thrown. She was terrified, and I saw the adults around her saying, essentially, "You've got to stay. I'm sorry, but you need to stay." She was terrified. She wanted to go home, and they wouldn't let her go home. But I suppose that's part of it, right, is that you're kind of radicalising the next generation. Nusrit, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to come to Professor Griffin after the break. But I do think there was one heartwarming thing about all of this, which is that the local community just sort of rejected the extremism that they saw on their streets. I had wondered whether, you don't know, do you, when things first take off, where things are going to lead? Is this going to spread? Is this representative of anger more generally across Britain? And maybe it is about other things. But actually, the local community in Southport, genuinely, this isn't just sort of like, some kind of like narrative that journalists are putting on things to create like a nice heartwarming story. Genuinely, I was stood there with local residents as they were watching that riot take place in Southport, and they were just really hacked off because it was trashing their street, and they were like, why are you targeting the mosque? We don't understand. A lot of the people who live around there next to the mosque were saying, we really like the community here, and we get on really well with the people who come to pray in the mosque. They don't cause us any problems whatsoever. So I don't think this was something that was kind of inspiring the local population to have any sympathy towards those who were rioting. If anything, the exact opposite. It just sort of repelled them from the aims of those people.